Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us today. Can you get us started by introducing yourself? So, your background, expertise, and experience.
Sure. I'm Kathryn Oliver. I'm now Professor of Evidence and Policy at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. I've been working on the relationship between evidence and policy in different ways for about 20 years. I really started focusing on, or being involved rather, with systematic review programs, which were delivering evidence for policy for various different government departments in the UK. But I became more and more interested in what happened on the other side of the desk, if you like. So what happened when the policymakers received evidence. And then since between sort of 2019 and 2023, I was seconded into the Government Office of Science, which is the science advice bit of the UK government. And there I was supporting the science capability work that was ongoing across governments. That was all about trying to increase the number of scientists in government, improve the way that government could respond to scientific information and draw on it. And my role there was to try and improve how government articulated its knowledge needs to external stakeholders through something called the areas of research interest, but also to think broadly about how the science system operated internally and how it interfaced with different stakeholders such as universities, individual academics, funders, national academies, and so on.
Can you tell us about your involvement in transforming evidence and how it aims to bring together different partners as, for example, funders, decision makers, and researchers?
So back in 2017, Annette Bowers and I, we've been working together for several years, and we realised that we shared common frustrations about evidence use studies. And what we observed is that there was a lot of duplication and waste and also gaps in the research base. So the same questions were being asked over and over again, questions to which there was already a substantive knowledge base, but sometimes in a different discipline. So we came up with the idea of forming Transforming Evidence, which is a not-for-profit organisation, which would try and create spaces for conversations across disciplines. So Transforming Evidence was to try and, the idea behind it was to try and create a space where academics could learn from each other in a constructive way and to try and share what we already know, and on that basis to identify actual research gaps that we do need to do and that we do need to address, but together using this interdisciplinary perspective. The other frustration that we had was that we actually know a lot about how to improve evidence use. And so what we wanted to do in Transforming Evidence was to find a way of making it clear what we already know and sharing some of those key lessons with people who really need to use it. So predominantly funders, governments, people who are trying to run public services, essentially. And the third thing that we wanted to do was to make sure that when we are commissioning new research in the field, that we're doing it on the basis of good knowledge about what we already have and not always trying to reinvent the wheel. Often when people discover that there's an area of academic work about the gap between knowledge production and evidence use, they decide that they're the first people that have noticed it and call it something new. So, for example, meta-science or research on research or whatever it might be. And they do that without really connecting back with the academic things that already exist. So Transforming Evidence is a very long-winded way of answering your question, but Transforming Evidence is trying to bring those communities together, but also then to try and make sure that the rather limited resources we have to do research in this area are spent in a way, on areas that are genuine knowledge gaps.